ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर्श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेषु भिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदि कवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारि मृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 22, verse number 48. This is the story of Prithu Maharaj and the instructions of the Kumaras. So we read how Kumaras appeared in the assembly of Prithu Maharaj, and then Prithu, he asked question to them about the welfare, and they instructed him about devotion to the Lord and said that this is the simple and most profound process to cross over this material world and become free from all suffering. After that, the king, he thanked them and didn't know what to offer to them. These sages were, they were highly realized and they don't need anything. So finally he just folded his hands and said that actually there is no way that I can repay back to you. In fact, to think that I can repay you itself is ridiculous. So now Maitreya, he speaks, continues. Maitreya Vacha, Maitreya said, Te Atmayogapataya Adi Rajena Pujitaha Shilam Tadiyam Samsantaha He Bhuva Nishatam Nanam. So after giving his respect to the Kumaras, and when Kumaras were about to leave, then the king, he worshipped them. And they praised the character of the king, and then they left by the path of sky. They just flew, because they are perfected yogis. They can fly in the air by their mystic power. They are called in this verse as Atma Yoga Pataya, means the masters of the science of the self. They are self-realized people, 4 of them, and they are completely renounced. So they gave their sermon, their teachings, and then they just flew into the sky. Kheya bhuvan akas margena satya lokam gata. They went to Satya Loka. That is the planet of Lord Brahma. That's where mostly the Kumaras live. So then Maitreya, he continues explaining the story of Prithu Maharaj. Says, Vanyastu dhuryo mehatam sanstitadhyatma sikshaya apta kamameva atmanam mene atmani avasthitam. So Vanya means the son of Vena, Prithu Maharaj. He was a great person, and he is called here as Atma Kamam, Apta Kamam. He lived as if all his desires were completely satisfied, and there was nothing which he wanted to achieve. He was fixed in the self after the instructions he has received from these great people. So he is called here as Dhurya, means as if very staunchly fixed, and he felt that he has achieved the purpose of his life. Therefore there was not much remaining for him to do. Yet he continued to rule as a king for some time. So Sri Vishwanath says that Adhyatma Shikshaya ya Samyak Sthitir Maryada Taya Apt Kamam eva na tu Apt Kamam. Says that the limit which is attained by the transcendental knowledge of the self, that he has experienced. And because of that he felt that all his desires are satisfied. He did not think that there is anything more to be achieved. So usually an Aptkama person has nothing remaining to perform. But since he was ruling as a king, it is said here Aptkamam eva, as if he was not completely Aptkam. Not that he is completely perfected, he did not live, otherwise he will become like Kumara then, not doing anything. So his mind was completely fixed in the self and Atmani Avasthita. And this is how he lived. Tasya Suddha Bhaktatvat Kevalaya Bhaktya Eva Aptkama Nirvrittitvat Vedvidam Shastrantrashu Eva Adhyatmadashu Api Tasya Purvam Jigyasa Eva Asit Sapurna. So he says that because he was a pure devotee, and the complete satisfaction comes only from pure devotion, not just from transcendental knowledge of the self. So he only had an inquisitiveness about Adhyatma Vidya, about the science of the self, but he was not interested in following it. So that inquisitiveness was now fulfilled. Sapurna iti etavan matram eva karyana dyoti. So that's why the word eva is used here. Atmani swabhave eva avasthita. He was situated in his own nature. Adhyatma shikshaya api Shuddha bhakti swabhavas tasya na paragata. Meaning is, he gives another meaning of the verse, that although he heard about this Brahma Gyan, or this realization of the impersonal Brahman, but personally he was not interested in following it. Since he was a devotee, he continued to be a devotee. So when it is said that by hearing this Adhyatma Vidya, this Brahma Gyan, he became like perfect. So why it is said like? So he comments on this that because this was not his real desire to follow. So his inquisitiveness was satisfied, and that's all. So then what did he do? He says, Karmani cha yatha kalam, yatha desham, yatha balam, yathochitam, yatha vittam, akarod brahma satkritam. He continued to perform karma, actions, although there was no need for him, according to the time, whatever was needed at a particular time. And yatha desham, according to the place, because in different places there are different customs or different ceremonies. So he observed them. And yatha balam, and according to his own capacity. Yathochitam, whatever was appropriate according to the situation. And yatha vittam, and whatever money was required for that particular action. So he did all this Brahma Satkritam, offering everything to the Supreme Person. In other words, he was not really interested in following the karma marga, but he continued to observe the customs or rituals or spiritual practices of the people so that they don't deviate from it. To set an example, not that it was compulsory for him. So that is the meaning of yatha kalam, as according to time and place and need. Karmani cha iti chakarena shuddha bhaktanam karma anadhikritatvepi grihasthanam loka sangrahartham. So because he was following the path of pure devotion, there was no need for him to follow the path of karma. He was not obliged, and it was not expected from him. Yet he engaged because to set a standard, an ideal, an example for the household people who are living in family life. If the king is not following, then common people will also give up. So therefore he engaged in those activities. Varnashram Maryada Lopa Bhavartham. Also he did not want that the principles of Varnashram Dharma get lost, that people lose interest in them. So to maintain them, he continued to follow. Bhakti Marga Akutsnartham va. Also not to pollute the path of devotion or bring criticism. Because if he gives up, then the people who are following Jnana Marga or Karma Marga, they may criticize him that look, he is not following. Because they will not understand this fact that a devotee is not obliged to follow these karma principles. So for that reason also he continued. Rahasyaya Shuddhaya Bhaktir Gopnartham. So he gives many options, many reasons why. Also he continued to perform these rituals or ceremonies to keep the Bhakti Marga as a secret, so that people think that he is also following karma. And they follow. Then they will not come to know that actually he is a devotee. Swamva pratimurtya va purvacharto anasakya kinchit karam karnam na doshava. So some actions he performed himself and some through his representatives. So although he did these activities, but he had no attachment to them. Purvacharto anashatya. No, his heart was not into it. And therefore this type of karma was not a cause of any criticism or a defect in his behavior. Usually when a person takes to pure devotion, then it is not expected that such a person has to follow the karma path or the rituals. And if he does, then it is as if he has not understood what is bhakti. But if it is done with this intention and without attachment, then it is not a problem. So in Bhagavatam later on Krishna says, Tavat karmani kurvite na nirvidyate yavata mat katha sravnado va shraddhaya nidaya. So one can engage in karma marga unless one becomes renounced and no interest in material desires, or one has become attached to hearing Krishna Katha, pastimes of Lord, then also one can give up karma, or actually one should give it. But if one is in a situation like Prithu Maharaj, then one continues to set example for others. As Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Lok Sangram evarthi, that for Lok Sangram, Karya Kartu Mihara deserves or it behooves you to continue to engage in karma. He's telling this to Arjuna. Karmane hi sansiddhit asthitajun karma. So karma will also bring perfection, and if one has become perfected, then one continues so that others take an example. So iti sampradayikahu, this is the explanation given by some people. Kincha tesham karmani shraddha rahityad ashraddhaya kritam akritam eva alamiti shuddha bhakta nakshya. Moreover, because he had no faith in this rituals anymore, he did it without shraddha, without faith, and therefore even engaging in these activities was as good as not engaging. Because as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapas taptam kritam chayat, that if you perform activities without faith, such as sacrifice or charity or chanting of the mantras or some austerity, and if it is done without faith, then asat iti uchyate partha, then it is called asat, means as good as not doing it, because na pretya nahi, it will give you benefit neither after death nor here. Because without shraddha, there is no benefit. Shraddha is essential. It's like people take medicine, so they have this placebo effect. Even if it is not a medicine, but you think it is a medicine and you have faith in it that it will cure, then you get benefit. So that is the benefit of shraddha, not of the medicine. Because it is not, medicine is not there. So many experiments have been done of this placebo effect. So that effect comes from shraddha. So it is working even in this mundane field, same way it works here. So shraddha is very essential. They have also done experiment that if the doctor gives a medicine to a patient and doctor does not have faith, then this medicine will work. Then it doesn't work. So the doctor has to have faith. If the patient does not have faith and doctor has a faith, the medicine will work. If patient also has faith, it will work more. But if doctor does not have faith, it doesn't work, even if the patient has faith. Doctor's faith is more important. So it's like teacher is teaching to the student, but he does not believe in it. Then it doesn't have much influence on the students. That's why hearing from the proper source is very important. So when they talk about sadhu sangha or associating with people who are spiritually advanced, naturally they have faith, they have actually realized and they are fixed. So when you hear from them, then it carries the potency in it. So Shraddha is very important. So Shraddha Mayavajam Purusha Shraddha Sevasana. Purusha actually is made of Shraddha, and a person is known by the faith. Because our actions, our decisions, they depend on our faith. Whatever faith we have. So faith can move the mountains, or at least a mountain, not mountains. So faith has great power. Therefore he says that if he is a Shuddha Bhakta, he is pure devotee, naturally he doesn't have any faith in karma anymore. And yet he is doing it. So it is not going to implicate him in karma. So karma gives result according to the sankalpa, and also faith has to be there. So of course sankalpa signifies that one is having faith in it, otherwise what kind of sankalpa is he making if he has no faith?
Sankalpa means resolution.
Yeah, what you want from it. So he did not want anything, therefore but he has no faith in it. In fact, he has no need for it. Therefore he says that Shuddha Bhakti Nakshati. Therefore Shuddha Bhakti is not an obstruction to Shuddha Bhakti to perform karma like this. Otherwise, if one engages in karma, then it becomes an obstruction to Shuddha Bhakti. It actually becomes a type of offense to Shuddha Bhakti. Which means the person doesn't have faith in pure devotion, that devotion will give you what you want. Now you are approaching somebody else. It's like you have the Lord available and then you go to someone else to buy. So the person will think, what is this? Yatha kal, yatha desha, yatha bal shabdaihi, kala desha patranusaraneva karnat, na samastena karma karna. So this thing which is stated here, that he acted according to time, according to place, according to his strength, according to the qualification of the people, it shows that he did not engage in karma fully. Means whatever was necessary to do, he just did that. Not that he was really involved in it from the heart. Tatrapi tathochitam ityanena Shuddha Bhaktanam karma anochityat lok pradarshana eva karma karnat vastutastu karma akarnam eva. So here it is said that yatha uchitam, as it was appropriate. So he says that this is to show that those people who are following the path of pure devotion, for them it is improper to engage in karma. And thus he did it only to show to people. And because he did it only as a show, then his doing was as good as not doing. In other words, it did not bring him any result. In other words, karma will also bring him result. Brahma satkritam brahmana Sad Vyaparam Yatha Syat Tatha Akarot. So Brahma Satkrit means he did it in relationship to the Brahmanas. Let me translate. Tasya karma vyaparan brahmana eva chakru. So usually the word Brahma Satkritam is translated as that he did everything and offered it to Brahman. As in Bhagavad Gita it is said Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavim Brahma Karma Samadhi. Seeing everything like Brahman, the fire, the blessing, the mantra, the chanter, the yajna, everything. But he gives another meaning to this. He says Brahmana Satkritam means that Brahmana Sadhu Vyaparam, that he did his dealings with Brahmanas. The word Brahman can also mean Brahman. Which means that whatever karma he did it through the Brahmanas. He did not do it personally. Tasya karma vikshepa bhavit. Therefore, he was not disturbed by performing the action as per the process. Otherwise, when he has to do that chanting the mantra and this and that, then it may be a disturbance to him because he is not able to engage in devotion. So he says, no, he engaged the Brahmanas as representatives. As it was said over Swamva Pratimurtya was it. He did it himself or he had representatives. So when you want to do karma, you can also find a representative. Like if it is prescribed that sometimes through Jyotish they found out that you have some sickness, some ailment coming because of some past karma. And then they recommend that to get rid of that past karma you have to chant some mantras, a Gayatri mantra from so many thousand times. Now you may not have time to do that. You can hire a Brahmana to do that. He becomes your representative, he chants, he is doing the chanting but you will get the benefit. And you give him charity dakshina for that. So then that is called Pratinidhi representative. So he also did that. That's the meaning he is bringing out from this word Brahma Satkritam. Yadva Nirvishango Anasakta. Next verse. So this is the meaning of this particular verse. Phalam brahmani vinyasya nirvishangah samahitah karmadhyaksam cha manvane atmanam prakrute param. So he offered all his fruits of all this work to the Supreme Lord while meditating with one pointed attention. And he considered the self only as a witness of the karma. And having his vision beyond the Prakriti, he did not become implicated in the results of this karma. So Nirvishanga means Anasakta. And Atmana means the Antaryana. So knowing the Supreme Lord as beyond Prakriti and considering oneself as just the witness to the actions, he offered all the result to the Supreme Lord and this way remains free from any implication of the karma. Because karma you become implicated only when you have the ego of doership. When you become the karta, or you have the ego that I am the doer, then you also become the enjoyer. The result will come to you. But if one does not have this ego of doership and performs actions, then the results of the action do not implicate such a person. As in Gita, Krishna says, Yasya naham kriti bhavo buddhir yasya na lipate hattvapi saimam lokan naham tena bhagavad. that one who does not have the ahinkriti bhav, this feeling of doership. So basically it is the consciousness which implicates one in karma, not the karma itself. If one is attached to the result, then one becomes implicated, then obviously one acts. But if one does the action without the desire to enjoy the fruit, or thinking that one is actually not the doer, the actions are happening by the body, mind and senses, then one does not get bound by the karma. So this is the meaning that he was karmadhyaksha, just being a witness, because a witness is not implicated. So Atma is also witness, but if Atma starts identifying, then it's not anymore witness. Witness means you are aloof, you are only the observer. But if you get involved with your emotions, then you are no more witness, and you become part of it. So things change if we put our awareness, consciousness into it. Then you also become attached to them. You cannot escape. But if you are not putting your awareness into it by identifying, then you remain free. So Padma Patram Dasa, like the lotus leaf in the water, didn't get wet. You can just float. So that is the way to float on the waves of karma. गृहेषु वर्तमानेऽपि सा साम्राज्यश्रियान्वितः न सज्जतेन्द्रियार्थेषु निरहम्मतिरर्कवत्. So although he remained in the house, and although he was endowed with all the opulence of his kingdom, he was not bound by the senses and the sense objects. He had no attachment to that. Why is that? Nirahammati. Because his consciousness was without this ego that I am the enjoyer, I am the doer, I am the owner. He was free from this. And the example given is Arkavat, like the sun. So just as sun is spreading the sunlight all over the universe, but does not get any reaction. The light may be falling on a clean place, it may be falling on a garbage dump. Nothing happens to the sun. Sun stays aloof, clean, unattached. So in the same way one can be witness, which means one is conscious what is happening, but one is not involved through attachment, one is not placing one's consciousness into it, that this is mine or this I have done, this belongs to me. So he did not do anything like that. So this is because of Nirahammati. He did not have the pride of being the possessor. So sun is remaining aloof from anything like that. And although he was situated in the house, so the problem is not in the house, not in the money, not in the family. The problem is in the attachment. attachment. Because if you give up your house and you go and live in an ashram, then also you are living in some room. In your house also you are living in your room. What is the difference? You are wearing clothes there, now you wear clothes of a different type. You are eating in your house, you are eating here. So problem is only of attachment. Otherwise there is no object or action which can bind the soul. So the bondage comes when we become involved through our ego. एवं अध्यात्म योगेन कर्माणि अनुसमाचरन् पुत्रान् उत्पादयामास अर्चिष्यात् सम्मतान्. So in this way, when he was engaged in Adhyatma Yoga, means situated in the self, he performed all his duties properly. Karmani Anusamachara. He was not negligent. He did everything perfectly. And he produced 5 sons in his wife Archi, who were just like himself in character. Adhyatma Yogena Vinaya Vashaktya Karmani Kara. So Adhyatma Yogena means he performed actions but without any attachment, without any asakti, he did everything. So this is a great art to do that. And bigger than that, of course, is devotion, where attachment is for the sake of the Lord. That is the next. Yadva adhyatma iti saptami arthe avyay bhavaha. So he gives another meaning of adhyatma yoga, then it becomes adhyatmani yogini. Atmani swata siddhoya yoga ashakti vina bhut vishaya bhoga lakshana siddhi vishesha teneva putrana utpadana. So another meaning is that he was perfected by his own self, and therefore he had no attachment to any enjoyment. And being in that situation, he produced children. So usually it is difficult to believe that he had relationship with his wife and he did not enjoy. So it's like you eat and you don't taste. But it is possible when one is situated in this Adhyatma Yoga. Because then one becomes detached from the body itself. And body is functioning like a machine. And one is sitting on it. But one does not get involved in the pleasures and pains of the body. So that is the meaning he gives to Adhyatma Yoga. That Adhyatmani Yoga. That his yoga, his union was in the self or in the Supreme Lord. Atma means Paramatma. And therefore then he did whatever is to be done. So even having relation with the wife and producing children, one remains detached from it. One is not absorbed in this type of action. So this is, of course, is the limit of being detached. Natu putrotpadana hetukas tasya stri vishayate. So he says that he did not associate with the wife because of the cause of producing children and then becoming attached to that. Kopi kama vikaro asti. Means he did not have any kama vikar or agitation by the desire for sex. So usually people have sexual relationship when there is an agitation in the mind. If there is no agitation in the mind, then one does not have sexual relationship. So he had sexual relationship without agitation of the mind. Because agitation of the mind was not possible for him. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarve Kama Pravashanti. It's like the water enters the ocean. Samudra Mape Pravashanti. So they don't, when the river is going into the ocean, it does not cause any disturbance into the ocean. So it's so big. So then these desires or these activities up to the extent of sexual relationship do not cause disturbance in the mind of such a person. This is to show how elevated he was. That the senses are no more controlling him, the mind is not controlling him. He is the master of the senses, he is the master of the mind, and he is using this mind and senses to do what he wants to do. Not that he is forced to do or he falls prey to their functions. This did not happen. So he had 5 sons. Although it is said that he produced 5 sons, Jiva Goswami comments on this Putranutpadyavaseti Prarthana Katha. He says this is the past history. He had already done this because we know that he already had this son who went and chased Indra. His name was Vijitashu and he was the eldest. So he already had sons before. Now their names are given here. Vijitashvam, Dhumrakesham, Hariyashvam, Dravinam, Brikam, Sarvesham Lokpalanam, Dadhara Eka Prathur Gunan. So their names are given here, that the name of the sons were Vijitasva, was the eldest son, and then the next one was Dhumrakesha, and then Hariyashva, and Dravinam, and Virkam. So these were the names of 5 sons he had. So he produced them to take care of the kingdom after he is going to retire to the forest. And now it is described that he will manifest the characteristics of the Lokpalas. There are supposed to be 8 Lokpalas, or protector of the, those are Dikpalas, but Lokpalas are the protector of the various planets. So Prithu Maharaj was an avatar of the Lord. So being an avatar of the Lord, he had the qualities of all the Lokpalas in him. A king is actually supposed to have the power of all the Lokpalas. And in the olden days when king was installed on his throne by chanting of the Vedic mantras, then all the powers of the various Lokpalas, they were like poured into him. That's why they gave him this Abhishek. He was given the shower with the water in which the mantras were chanted. All the deities were invoked, all these Varuna, Indra, Surya, and these Devas, their powers were invoked into this water, and then he was given a bath. in this water by the Brahmanas. So then he was considered as a special person, just like we install deities. So when a deity installation is done, then you invite the Lord to come and manifest in the deity by chanting all the mantras, doing sacrifice, there is a whole process. After that, the deity is not considered as a piece of metal or a stone, but as if the Lord is personally present there. It's treated like you have to take care of that deity now. You have to feed him, put him to sleep. He's feeling hot, you have to fan him. You do all that. So he's not just a statue. So similarly, in the olden days, the kings, they were installed on the throne and they were given the power of all the devas, including Vishnu. He was considered as representative of Lord himself. That's what Vena was saying. He was actually quoting Shastra, that I am the representative, why reversing somebody else? So then he is treated as a special person. He is not treated like an ordinary person anymore. So that's why killing a king is considered as a very heinous crime. It's like breaking the deity. Because the mantras have been chanted and the Brahmanas have performed this ceremony. So the king actually used to carry the power and he was expected to behave as a representative of all these powers. It was expected that he will have spotless character. So it was not, usually we think that becoming king is a very pleasurable job, enjoyable job, and everybody has the desire to be like that. But actually, when we see that it is a very great responsibility. His powers are not there to enjoy, but to execute these powers in the service of the Lord and the people. So just as we have the post of Guru, so it looks like Guru is being honored and he is being worshipped and everybody is bowing down to him. But that is not the purpose behind it. The purpose is that he has a big responsibility. He has a big headache to take care of the students. It is his responsibility. Guru na sasyat. One should not become a guru. So it's not that kings who are becoming very happy that I am becoming a king. If that is the case, then they have not understood. That's why Vishnu Maharaj is refusing to be. So I am not qualified to take this. I have created such a havoc for so many people. How can I now sit on this throne? Arjuna was saying the same thing. That how can we enjoy after killing so many people? So this idea of enjoyment comes when we do not understand. We only see the external. But the person who is doing his duty sincerely, he knows that it is not meant for enjoyment or anything like that. He has a big crown. That's why this crown is put on the head. It's a big weight. It's to carry around. So this king which is said here that Lok Palanam Dadhar Eke Prithur Gunan, that he alone, he was holding the power of all these Lokpalas. Although there are many Lokpalas and they have individual powers, but Prithu was as if having the power of all of them, which also means the responsibility. Because power is not for enjoyment. Power is to perform the service. It's like if one is working in a company and is given some position and maybe some facility also. You may have a car, you may have a place to live. The company is giving you all this. It's not that you enjoy that. you are being facilitated so that you can do more service than others, and you don't have to worry about your commuting from your house to the office. You don't have to waste time. That is the idea. So facility or the power which is given is not to enjoy it personally, but to utilize it in the service of whom it is given. So like that, this was the power was given to him in the service of the Lord, and he did use it in that sense. So in the upcoming verses there is a description of all these Lokpalas and how Prithu was holding the power of all of them properly, and that's why he was considered as a great king, or Adi Raja, the prime king. So we'll read that tomorrow.
I understand properly that he said that the complete satisfaction comes from pure devotion, not from transcendental knowledge.
Means just to think that I am self, that does not give complete satisfaction. Self is part of God.
Why did he want to keep the bhakti as secret?
So that unqualified people don't take it. So the problem is that some people are not qualified for bhakti. But if you say, oh, this is very nice, bhakti is a very easy process, and these unqualified people come, but because they don't have real interest, then what they do is they spoil it. It's like you read, sometimes, suppose you read Ayurveda and it glorifies milk. How milk is so nice and it is the nectar on earth. But you don't have a good digestion. Or suppose you are sick, or you have lactose intolerance, which is very common these days. And then you read this. So you drink milk, and then what happens? You become even more sick. So here of course it is only harming you. There they destroy the path itself, because you are not qualified, so you don't follow it properly. But you are not going to accept that you are not following properly, and if you are an illustrious person, means you have some power to speak or you have some other capabilities, then you become famous and then you propagate the wrong thing. So for that reason, bhakti also needs to be protected from unscrupulous people who will not take advantage.
I have a question regarding the point of Shraddha. So there is this concept of Agyata Sukriti. How does this fit into this, what you were saying, that actions without Shraddha have no potency?
This is from karma point of view especially. Because in case of bhakti, as I understand, probably that's what you mean, that in case of bhakti there are actions which if you perform, they don't depend on anything. Because bhakti is supremely independent. Bhakti does not depend on anything. Because bhakti is heart of the Lord Himself, or Lord, it is Lord Himself basically. So just as Lord is not depending on anything, He is Swarat. So like that bhakti can work even without Shraddha. But karma is not like that.
It can work without Shraddha.
Yeah, it can.
But it
Because
doesn't.
it is Swarat, so it may not work. If it does not want. And Bhakti has a personality.
Because there's all these ideas going around. Well, at least he took prasadam, or he heard the holy name.
Yeah, so that is good. But whether it will take effect or not, that is up to Bhakti. It is not that just you take prasad or take holy name that you are bound to become pure devotee or not. Ultimately, it depends on Bhakti, on grace of the Lord, whatever you call it.
So to count on Bhakti's favor or responding is a mistake. They say, well, I give this animal prasadam and this animal is liberated because he ate prasadam. This dog ate prasadam and now he suffers for 3 days, but he's going to be liberated.
It's not necessary.
So to expect this from Bhakti is wrong, right?
No, we can expect. There is nothing wrong in expecting, but whether your expectation will be fulfilled or not, that is up to Bhakti.
But it's definitely not pure Bhakti, right?
Pure Bhakti means to do something for the pleasure of the Lord. Without any motives.
Another question I have about this witness point. So if you said if the witness doesn't become involved, even emotionally or mentally, he's not affected.
Yes.
Now let's say on practical grounds, if I see, let's say, a child drowning in the river, and I just have no emotions about it, I'm just really the witness. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
I see the child drowning and I'm supposed to rescue the child.
Say rescue the child, what is the problem in that? But don't be emotional.
So if I, not
That's
just
what he was
hypothetically,
doing.
if I'm just saying, well, this is the child's karma and...
No, that's what he said, that he was not emotional, but he did his duty, whatever was to be done. Yatha kalam, yatha desham, yatha bale. So if the child is drowning, one is that he become emotional, especially if it is your child. And suppose child is drowning and you call the fire brigade people and they come to rescue. They are not emotional, as the mother may be emotional. She is standing there, child has fallen into well. Recently there was an article today, somebody fell somewhere, I didn't read the whole thing, and they have to call the whole army to get this boy out in India. It happens many times. Somebody is falling in some manhole somewhere and there for 24 hours or he falls into some well. Quite often this news is coming. Because here people are so careless. You have to just be careful yourself if you want to protect your life. The others don't bother if you fall into this well, or they will open this whole thing on the middle of the road and there's no light. You can fall into it. No problem. I also fell one day like that. So the fire people, they come, they also do their duty, but they are not emotional. And somebody becomes emotionally involved. So that is the meaning of being witness and doing the action. So doing the action and not knowing that, not thinking I am the enjoyer or I am the doer, but it has to be done, it is happening and I am part of it.
So being a witness, even non-emotional, really also calls for action, if action is needed.
Yes.
That's what I was. So if you don't do the action,
That's what Krishna is saying in
implicated.
Bhagavad Gita. Because Arjuna is becoming emotional. And when he becomes emotional, first is that his intelligence gets covered. And he is not able to decide properly. And then when he cannot decide properly, he cannot act properly. That's what happened to him. He will not act. So Krishna is asking him not to be emotional. He says first you give up your emotional and think with a cool head. That's what he says, that you are speaking learned words, but you are mourning for those who are not worthy. Which means you are becoming emotional and then you talk like a philosopher. So how can an emotional person be a philosopher? Philosophers are not emotional. He is saying how these two things go together. Pragyavadasya vasya, asochanam, jnanasochanti. So he said, don't bring emotions into philosophy. That's what he's saying basically. Then he starts talking about philosophy. Natvevaham jatu nasam natam neme janadhipa nachayuna bhavishyam sarve vayam matahpa. So then you can see things as they are. Then you can take decision and act. So if Arjuna was non-emotional and then he has said that I don't want to fight, then Krishna would have said that's fine. Let's go back. And we can have some herbal tea. But he was
spoiled the whole
emotional.
Mahabharata.
But he was emotional and then he was saying I don't want to fight. So he said, no, that's not true. Because now you are emotional and you are saying I don't want to fight, and after some time your emotion will change and then you will say now I want to fight, and then you will again bother me. You will not let me drink my cup of herbal tea. And you will say, okay Krishna, harness the horses, I have to go and fight now. So you didn't want to be wishy-washy like that. So he says, you fix your mind first.
But one should aspire for this non-emotional witnessing.
Yeah. In path of bhakti, the emotions are there. But those are divine emotions or devotional emotions. Because when you come to all this Rasastra, it is all emotions. How can there be love without emotion? And that is a different field. So those types of emotions are useful. And these other emotions are the cause of bondage. Because they are deviating you from your own self. You are not situated in your own self, you are putting yourself into something else. So in bhakti also we do that, but there we are putting ourselves into Krishna where we should be putting ourselves. Because we are part of Him. The part should be with the whole. So that is a proper use of emotion. So emotions are not meant for material relations. Should not waste them for all this. It's a waste of emotion. So therefore on the path of Jnana and Yoga they try to make one as non-emotional. And on the path of Bhakti they say that we have transcendental emotions.
So on any spiritual or transcendental path, material emotions are misplaced.
Completely. So that's what is being taught here. You see, the Bhagavatam is a very wonderful book. But it is slowly building up. before it brings you to the 10th canto, which is the heart of Bhagavatam. So it is slowly, and what it is showing you is that you have to come from this level to this level to this level, and this is the ultimate. So that's why there's talk about Adhyatma Yoga or Bhakti mixed with Jnana and all these things. And then it's gradually showing you the various levels of spirituality. If it takes you directly to that 10th, then you will mistake it for material emotions. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So when we see Krishna's associates like the Pandavas, Kunti Devi, etc., displaying emotions, very intense emotions, we should consider them as transcendental, or
Yeah, well,
yeah,
unless they are playing a role to show us what is material and what is spiritual, because that may also be there, as in case of Bhagavad Gita. That is not transcendental, it's showing material emotion, which Krishna says that is stupidity. And that's what he calls Arjuna, that you are a fool. And he says, Pragyavada Bhasai, what he is saying in a gentle, manly language, is that you are a damn fool.
okay.
He calls him. So you are an Anarya. So you are a tribal fellow, basically. You don't know anything. Anarya Justamasvarya Kirtika. So you have the ego that you are coming in Kuru dynasty. But you are talking like a Jifri coming from some forest.
So then their emotionality is to teach.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he is representative of common person.
Babaji, how about I just thought of something funny. So let's say one of the devotees was being attacked by a whole bunch of people, throwing bricks at him or her, and got knives and guns and everything. And then a group of Hare Krishna devotees come by and said, well, she probably had it coming to him. Or he had it coming. And not have any feelings. Is that I'm trying to really grasp this.
Well, if they are devotees, then it is not possible to think like. I mean, this is what you are asking is in a hypothetical question.
Yeah.
But if you say that they are devotees, then it is not possible that it will be like that.
And be genuine servants of God.
Yeah. They are devotees, then how can they be like that? Unless they are jnanis, unless they are jnani bhaktas.